Seattle to Boston, San Francisco to New Jersey, even Miami to Michigan. The longest interstates cover a large amount of America's landscape, some flooded by big city traffic, others connecting oceans to America's heartland. The plan conceived by President Eisenhower in 1956 to create a 41,000-mile national system of interstate highways has continued to this day. All but 4 state capitals are served directly by the system, and our dependence on them doesn't look to fade anytime soon. So let's hop right into it with the 7 longest interstates in the USA. Interstate 75, Miami, Florida to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I-75 only reaches across 6 states, from the Miami to the Canadian border, passing through places like Atlanta, Chattanooga, Lexington, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, eventually following the shore of the Lake Erie on its way to Detroit, where you'll find its most impressive feature. The Mackinac Bridge, a 26,000-foot-long suspension bridge leading to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I-95, the longest of the odd-number interstates, which routes run north to south. This massive freeway holds plenty of titles, from being the longest north-south interstate in the country to the most states covered, with 15 plus Washington, D.C. It hits some of the most densely populated areas, such as Miami, Baltimore, D.C., Philly, New York, and Boston. This interstate hangs tight to the Atlantic coast, but dips inland at certain points in Georgia and the Carolinas, then grazes within a tenth of a mile of D.C., before flowing to the coast, reaching all the way to Canada. The oldest part of all interstates is on I-70 in Kansas and Missouri. It runs through 10 states and includes a couple of cities such as Denver, Kansas City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. But it contains a few other key attractions other than major cities. I-70 goes through the Eisenhower Tunnel, which is the highest tunnel in the United States, reaching 11,158 feet. I-70 was the first of its kind to travel through untraveled territory when it first decided to go through Utah's San Rafael Swell. It holds the longest stretch of interstate with no services, and also one of the few gaps in the interstate system, one that can be found in Breezewood, Pennsylvania. It's where a portion of the Pennsylvania Turnpike turns in what's known as the quarter-mile gap. Some say it's a choke point for traffic. Cross-country interstates don't get any more southern than the ones from LA to Jacksonville, Florida. It passes through 8 states and spends the majority of its time in Texas, which just so happens to contain 17 other interstates. Over 3,000 miles within its own borders. Its highest point rises above 5,000 feet, just east of Tucson, Arizona, and is lowest under sea level in the Big Easy. A sign at the beginning of I-40 starts in Barstow, California. It lets people know that you have well over 2,500 miles until you reach your destination in Wilmington, North Carolina, which also does the same going the opposite way. Just the same as 25 other interstates, I-40 begins its run in California, crossing cities such as Albuquerque, Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Memphis, and Nashville. But its most scenic is when it leads to the edge of the Grand Canyon, where it overlays a portion of the historic Route 66 for its most western route. Interstate 80 drops just below I-90, both by way of geography and distance. It reaches across 11 states, being recognized as one of the original routes and passing through historic transportation paths. Roughly imitating the Lincoln Highway and much of the first transcontinental railroad, covering parts of the Oregon Trail. Beginning with the Bay Bridge in San Francisco, I-80 also crosses Bonneville Salt Flats, near the Great Salt Lake. It then goes for a 72-mile stretch, coming close to cities like Chicago and Cleveland, before ending just 4 miles short of New York City in Teaneck, New Jersey. Covering 13 states, I-90 is the longest in the nation. It starts its route in Seattle, Washington, near Safeco Field, immediately going through a tunnel under Mount Baker Ridge, then crossing 2 floating bridges over Lake Washington. From there, it goes over 3,000 miles passing Wallace, Idaho. Just as it reaches Cleveland, it does a complete 90-degree turn before ending its run in Boston at Logan International Airport. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, share, subscribe, or comment.